Hello, everybody. It's February the 16th, which means today is Van Life update number 47. Hope everyone's doing okay today. Just checking in, see how things are going. Hope things are going copacetic. Hope you guys are doing all right today. People are walking around outside. It's a beautiful day, taking advantage of the sun and the warmth. It's hard to believe this is the middle of February. And it looks like maybe the next 2 weeks are not going to be too bad either here in the Texas area, Austin area, Central Texas. So maybe we'll be able to make it through the month of February without much trouble. That's my hope anyway. Let me ask you this. Do you ever have any doubts about any project or anything that you might be doing right now? Do you ever feel like, well, maybe I'm not making the right decision? Do you ever feel like maybe it's time to maybe go another direction? Well, I certainly have doubts. They creep in all the time. I keep wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I headed in the right direction? Seems like about every once or twice a month, I'll have these doubts creep in about whether I'm wasting my time or doing the right thing. And I think I want to suggest three things that we can do if we have doubts about a certain project that we may be working on. Perhaps you're having some doubts about buying a van like I am and hitting the road. And I think number one thing we can do is probably go back to the very beginning and ask ourselves why we decided to do this in the first place. Just maybe back up and ask ourselves, sort of revisit the original idea. You know, why did we decide to do this project in the first place? I mean, what's the honest reason? Whatever project it may be that you're looking at and you're having doubts about, maybe you need to go back to the very beginning and just ask yourself, why did I decide to do this anyway? What are the reasons? Maybe write down some reasons why you came up with the decision in the first place, because doubts will creep in. It's only human. So I think number one is maybe take a step back and go back to the beginning and why you decided to do this. I made this whole decision to jump into van life and to travel full time for at least a year. I want to give it at least a year. I want to travel for at least a year. And I go back, this is day 47. So I go back 47 days to January the 1st, or even before that, it was actually December 20th is when I started this channel. So I'm coming up on my second month anniversary of starting this channel from scratch. And I have to go back to that day and perhaps ask myself, why am I doing this? And come up with some concrete reasons. Maybe step back and return to the day I decided to move ahead. Maybe that will get me back to the beginnings of the reasons, the practical reasons I want to do it, and get beyond the emotion, because doubt is an emotion. It's not a verdict or an action or a condition. It's more of an emotional feeling. And so if you go back and start looking at the very beginning on the day that you made the decision to do whatever it is you're doing, and write down the reasons you're doing it, then maybe it will clear up in your own mind and cast some of those doubts out. Maybe get rid of some of those doubts, because you're trying to work your way through an emotion. It's like being sad. There's things that you can try to do to try to work your way through that emotion. So doubt is an emotion, and you try to work your way through it. And one way to do that is by asking questions about why you're doing this project to begin with. The second thing we can do is stop looking at this project as all one big massive to-do list. You know, it becomes overwhelming. Let's say you're looking to buy a house. That's a major project. That's something that comes along very rarely in a person's life. And so you look at that whole idea of buying a house and all that it takes to put together the financing and to start shopping around and looking for a house. You know, it becomes a major issue in terms of the size of the project. And it's helpful if you're having these doubts to break it down into smaller parts. Stop looking at the project, which is so massive, and maybe narrow it down to maybe one or two specific things that you can do today or this week to move yourself along. That will help you sort of become more realistic about the project that you're working on. I mean, for me, it's coming up with the financing and looking for a van and buying a van, which is nothing like buying a house. But still, there's money involved, and it takes time and it takes effort. And instead of over stressing about this whole idea of buying a van and building it out and getting on the road and coming up with the finances and looking for the expenses, instead of looking all of that at once as one big massive project, maybe I can break things down into what can I do today or what can I do this week to help move along the process. This will help relieve the stress, will help perhaps ease the doubts that may creep in. If you can just take one or two steps forward, it will help. The third thing we can do is we can separate this emotion, this feeling of doubt, from the actual decision itself. The decision itself, you can ask questions like, is it working? Are you making progress? Are there things that you need to be doing now that you haven't been doing? You can sort of look at it from the outside in and come up with some practical reasons on why or why not the decision is working, and separate that as a decision, separate that away from the emotion of it, the stress of it. Doubt isn't an emotion that will creep in, but it will fade, it will leave. The decision will still be there. And so you can look at the concrete decision that you're looking at and come up with some realistic and logical reasons why the decision is working or it's not working. And maybe you need to go in one direction or the other, make some minor adjustments. Instead of buying a brand new house with new construction, maybe you want to find an older house. Maybe you want to reduce the size of the house and look for something a little less expensive and not live beyond your means. For me, I had to make the decision, which I shared yesterday, that I'm going to buy a used van, a cargo van that's empty, rather than try to find something that's already built out. I want to find a cargo van that is pretty much empty, and then I will start to build it out myself, and I'll add the interior, build out the interior as I go along. And I made that decision. So I don't really have any doubts about that. My doubts tend to creep in about the financing and about the logistics. And it becomes a little bit stressful and a little bit overwhelming because you're thinking about the risk involved. And it's funny, 10, 15 years ago when I was traveling on the road, I didn't have these fears. I didn't have these doubts. First time I went on the road was back in 2007, and I traveled for a year and a half without hardly any doubts or any fears. Of course, I was a lot younger then. And maybe I felt like I had more of a support system back then in terms of family and assets. But now, when you get to the age that I'm at, you begin to think about, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe it's a little bit too risky at my age. But then I think, okay, what have I got to lose? You know? The thing about a decision is you can set yourself some deadlines. Give yourself 30 days to continue to work ahead and then do an evaluation then. or give yourself 60 days and then look back and say, okay, 60 days from now, if this project continues to flounder and I'm not all that interested anymore, then you can evaluate it at that point. So try to, in my own mind, I'm trying to dismiss doubts as an emotion that can come and go, you know, just like sadness or happiness or joy or all the other emotions that we experience, fear. Those things are not very stable. The decision itself is something that can be evaluated. Doubts will come and go, but the decision can stay and be solid and be evaluated. And we can sort of step outside of ourselves and look at the decision and make some realistic adjustments, realistic evaluations. But anyway, those are some things I thought I would share today, and things I've been thinking about. Whatever project you're looking to undertake this spring and doubts start to creep in, those are three pretty good things you can do. Go back at the beginning of the decision and evaluate it. Ask yourself some questions about why you made that decision. That's something that you can really rely on, is going back to the very beginning and sort of get that stress out of the way. Second thing you can do is start breaking down the project into little segments, smaller steps. Think about what you can do today or this week to move the progress forward. Instead of looking at the project as one big, massive, stress-filled endeavor, try to break it down into small, incremental steps and take those small steps. And then lastly, you want to try to separate the doubt from the decision, because the doubt is an emotion, and emotions come and go, to where the decision can be evaluated and the decision itself can be looked at and looked into and evaluated in a real way. You can come up with adjustments or whatever. Give yourself a deadline and evaluate as you go. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Go out and have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow. It'll be day 48. Go out and have a good one. We'll see you later.